This should go without saying, but I can't analyze the current episodes of Chainsaw Man without spoiling some major plot points. As of this recording, I have read ahead in the manga to the end of the Makima arc, but for the sake of simplicity and to keep this video from getting too long, I'll only be talking about what's been covered in the 12 episodes of the anime thus far. So, if you've already watched all of Season 1, or you're watching this out of pure boredom and simply don't care about spoilers, by all means, grab a drink and get comfy. Otherwise, click away now. You have been warned. From the start, Denji's origin story challenges what we've come to expect from a lot of shonen anime. Sure, Naruto is an orphan who's ignored by his community, but is he also living below the poverty line and struggling under a debilitating mountain of debt that he inherited out of no fault of his own, to the point where he's resorted to selling his own body parts and worked to exhaustion by a mafia group to which he owes said mountain of debt? No. I didn't think so. You want an underdog character to project yourself onto, it doesn't get much more underdog than Denji. But, rather than aspiring to be king of the ninja pirate wizards, Denji's goals are far simpler. A comfortable place to sleep, some decent food, a girlfriend would be nice. But so long as he struggles to merely survive, intimacy is much too far from his reach. Denji is only given a few moments alone to reflect on his pathetic existence before being whisked away to his next vague assignment. Upon arriving at an abandoned warehouse, Denji learns the first rule of street smarts. Never let yourself be taken to a secondary location, or you'll get stabbed through the back by a zombie wielding a katana. That really is the first rule, you can Google it. It turns out that Denji's former debt collector, as well as other members of the Yakuza, traded their free will to the zombie devil in exchange for power, after which it promptly took control of their bodies. Kind of a dumb move on their part. Naturally, Denji being an amateur devil hunter, the zombie devil wants him gone. This is where you think to yourself, wow, things are looking pretty bleak for our hero, but surely he'll escape somehow. I mean, he is the main character after all. Oh, is he gonna die? Oh, he's dead. Like, chopped up into pieces and thrown in the dumpster levels of dead. Shortly after this, Denji gains the powers of the Chainsaw Devil, gaining semi-immortality in the process. But I feel the brutality of this moment right here, at the end of the first episode, is what primes us as the audience to start expecting the unexpected. In other words, Chainsaw Man subverts our expectations. When I first noticed the teaser trailer for the anime, I personally didn't think Chainsaw Man would be my cup of tea, so I ignored it until episodes started being released a few months later. And can you really blame me? With a title like Chainsaw Man, I was expecting either something raunchy, like High School of the Dead, or one of those dumb horror movies that people watch solely out of the ridiculousness of the premise, like Sharknado or Cocaine Bear. That was until I got a few episodes in and realized that its writing is actually quite intelligent, which becomes clear through the conflict of the main protagonist. After his therapeutic bloodbath, Denji is discovered at the warehouse by Makima, who gives him an ultimatum: die by her hand as a devil, or work for her as a devil hunter in exchange for something at least resembling human rights. The better choice being quite obvious, Denji agrees to become an official member of public safety. Having suddenly climbed up a few rungs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Denji is feeling pretty good about his new circumstances. But he is now left without a sense of purpose. Upon some very minimal reflection, Denji makes it his life's mission to touch some boobs. This is where I'm sure along with many others new to this series, became concerned. Oh good, another shonen that revolves around the fondling of tits, because the genre sure doesn't have enough of that. But, as the title of this video suggests, Chainsaw Man is smarter than it lets on. The Blood Devil Power, one of Denji's colleagues, strikes a deal with him. If he helps rescue her pet cat from the Bat Devil, she'll return the favor by letting him touch her breasts. Denji, of course, excitedly accepts her proposition. This transactional approach to physical intimacy may be a little misguided, but to his credit, despite being a traumatized and socially stunted teenager, Denji seems to understand the concept of consent better than most anime protagonists. Although technically it wouldn't be all that consensual, seeing as how Power is actually a fiend like Denji, which refers to a devil that has assumed control of a human host after their death. We never really learned who the person was that the Blood Devil, aka Power, took control of before her untimely demise, but I suppose it's not all that important to the plot. Moving on, Power does eventually fulfill her end of the bargain, permitting Denji exactly 3 squeezes of her bosom. Denji goes in for the first squeeze, and it turns out she was wearing fake pads this whole time. Seemingly unfazed by this, Denji continues his remaining 2 squeezes, after which Power laughs and heads out of the bathroom, leaving Denji to have an existential crisis, as he realizes he feels just as empty as he did 10 seconds ago. Getting to touch tits didn't lead to any real euphoria or enlightenment. It was actually kinda lame. Up until now, Denji had been holding an expectation in his mind, which was then shattered in a matter of seconds. Welcome to adulthood, bitch! He then slumps back into depression as his life is once again without purpose. He later laments this to Makima, saying that he felt more alive chasing after a goal than he does now, having finally achieved it. This right here is a brilliant critique of a trope that is present across virtually all of shonen. Most protagonists will set their sights on a goal that is vague and near unachievable by design in order to keep their story going indefinitely. And some of these protagonists will never even question their goal, assuming it to be the correct one out of tunnel-vision naivety. I would go so far as to say that this extends to many other forms of media as well. How many Western films can you think of that tell us the main purpose of a man is to get with a woman, or vice versa? But as Chainsaw Man demonstrates, purpose is not something you'll find by merely chasing after pleasure. It is a unique and deeply personal thing that requires days, if not years, of introspection and experimentation to discover. And maybe, just maybe, what Denji wants more than good old sex is integration with society and a feeling of belongingness among his peers. Denji isn't given much of a chance to realize any of this, however, as he is then further groomed by Makima into doing her bidding. Denji is a perfect, albeit unfortunate combination of poverty, emotional neglect, and inexperience, making him easy to control, and Makima is fully aware of this. Chainsaw Man also subverts shonen tropes in other interesting ways, especially when it comes to the combat. In the 5th episode, we get properly introduced to the rest of Aki's team, including Himeno, Kobeni, and Hirokazu, as they set off to retrieve a gun devil fragment from a hotel where another devil is undoubtedly hiding. The dull-witted duo are there too, of course. Once I get to this scene, I'm thinking to myself, okay, secret society that attempts to keep the world safe from evil spirits, yada yada, we've seen this before. But wait, why do they all seem so frightened? Why are they scared by something that's supposed to be an everyday occurrence that they would have grown numb to over time? This is because the extermination sector of public safety has very few veterans, due to the job's high turnover rate. It turns out that the majority of public safety's devil hunters are fresh recruits, as most former employees either quit, go mad, or die within the first few weeks on the job. Death is so common in their line of work that they casually discuss recently deceased colleagues over beers the same way they would their quarterly reviews, or some other business metaphor. As a side note, I find it funny that during this scene, everyone is shocked to learn that Denji is only 16, making him the youngest in the group, which feels like a jab at the fact that seemingly every shonen character is a teenager, because that's the demographic that it's marketed towards. But back to the topic at hand. The only reason the extermination sector has any applicants at all is because of the high hazard pay. With all this in mind, it becomes perfectly understandable why these new recruits freeze up as soon as they get up close and personal with these Lovecraftian horrors. The only means mortals have of facing off with devils is by making contracts with the more lenient ones. Some devils may require you to give up something small, like a patch of skin or a fingernail, in order to summon them periodically, while others will grant you constant use of their powers, often at a much higher price. Typically in shonen, a character overusing their powers simply results in them running out of stamina and not being able to move for a while. In the world of Chainsaw Man, however, overusing your powers could mean losing all of your skin and/or body parts. Instead of these characters having untapped reserves of power that can be called upon whenever the situation is dire enough, the techniques in Chainsaw Man all have distinct consequences and limitations. Even the titular character Denji can't use his chainsaws recklessly, as they'll start to retract once he's lost too much blood, which will happen regardless of whether he's directly injured or not, since, he's got chainsaws coming out of him. This puts a stressful time limit on every battle. The quicker a foe is dealt with, the better. Chainsaw Man doesn't waste time extending a single battle across multiple episodes, choosing instead to get straight to the point, with most fights being swift and brutal. The villains aren't there to give you a lecture on their philosophy, they're there to f*** you up. Just like real life. This is best highlighted during the gang's first encounter with the Katana Fiend. After said Katana Fiend catches the gang completely off guard, Aki doesn't hesitate to draw his sword. The same sword that was mentioned back in episode 6, where it's implied that using it comes with serious repercussions. Aki makes quick work of Mr. Katana, as his sword is possessed by the Curse Devil. Striking a target 3 times with it results in them getting eviscerated by a Mortal Kombat-style finisher animation. But this only buys them a brief moment to catch their breath before Mr. Katana gets up again, because fiends are immortal unless you destroy their heart. Duh. He then proceeds to return the favor to Aki, wounding him severely. Seeing this, Himeno chooses to sacrifice herself in order to summon the Ghost Devil in its entirety. And you're thinking, okay, Aki's fancy sword didn't work, but this act of self-sacrifice has got to be enough to stop these antagonists in their tracks. Oh, okay, scratch that. Turns out this chick can also summon devils. But that's okay, because Denji hasn't had his main character moment yet. And he's recovered now, so here he comes, 3rd time's the charm. There is no possible way that Denji loses to... What? What? Public Safety Gang pulled out every trump card they had in succession, only for it to be revealed that the deck was stacked against them from the start. The tone that's set in the aftermath of this encounter is one of futility. It drives home the realistic but depressing message that sometimes you can do everything right and still fail. There's a continuous undertone of mortality throughout Chainsaw Man, as many of its characters, with the exception of fiends like Denji and Power, are at an unfair disadvantage. The theme of mortals having to face off against creatures that vastly overpower them is not a new one in the world of shonen. But unlike shonen such as Demon Slayer, for example, the characters of Chainsaw Man don't have the luxury of learning a universally available magic system through a training montage or two. Instead, they're boxed in through the use of contracts, none of which have desirable outcomes. The world of Chainsaw Man is callous and unforgiving, with characters having to make difficult decisions for the sake of protecting themselves or others, making it not all that different from our own. Now in the hospital, Aki takes stock of what's been lost. He asks the Curse Devil how much of his lifespan has been taken after the most recent use of his sword. The Curse Devil informs him he only has 2 years of his life remaining. Originally, while watching the subbed version, I actually misunderstood this line for a moment. I thought the Curse Devil was saying using the sword cost him 2 years, not that he had 2 years left. I guess lung cancer is the least of his worries now. On top of this new info, Aki has to come to terms with Himeno's death. There are no revival spells, no Dragon Balls to collect. Himeno is gone. Forever. Chainsaw Man is also not the first shonen to feature a permanent character death, but the weight that Himeno's death carries is tangible, and having it happen so soon after introducing her makes it clear that no one is safe. Hirokazu doesn't count, he was a side character at best. Denji and Power are unbothered by all this, as neither of them knew Himeno for very long, and both of them have the attention span of a goldfish. But Aki's trembling hands tell a different story. The weight of her death makes Aki start to doubt his conviction. Can he really get revenge against the Gun Devil? Or is he completely in over his head? Is revenge even worth it? Whether it's Aki's childhood home getting obliterated in an instant, a kiss gone horribly wrong, or bodies crumpling up like beer cans at a frat party, events in Chainsaw Man tend to happen very suddenly and without warning, creating a chaotic and fast-paced energy that stays consistent throughout every episode. What makes Chainsaw Man so entertaining is that it retains all the elements of a shonen that we've come to know and love, while simultaneously spitting on the genre whenever it gets the chance. Tatsuya Fujimoto, Chainsaw Man's creator, was asked during an interview how he managed to get Chainsaw Man serialized in Shonen Jump despite its gratuitous violence and deviation from what's typical for a shonen manga. He responded saying, "I always wanted to serialize in Shonen Jump, but I had the feeling that if I drew a serialization there was the risk that my work would get buried if I made a Jump-like manga. Because of that, I tried to retain my individuality as a creator while making only the structure and characters Shonen Jump-like." Thanks for watching, but don't let the anime analysis video fool you. My channel is actually all about drawing, so if you want to learn to draw, or are looking to improve your skills, check out my other videos. And subscribing would be cool too, if you want to do that.